Hi, this is Andrew from Unleash the Archers, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. This is episode number 102. And today's guest, we're talking to Andrew Kingsley Saunders. Andrew is the guitarist for the band Unleash the Archers, a power metal band from Vancouver, Canada. Today we're going to be talking to him about what got him into metal, pretty much his journey as an artist from where he started to now, as well as joining up with Unleash the Archers. And he also has a little bit of a solo project called Sleeper Ship. So, without further ado, let's go talk to Andrew. So, what's up, guys? I'm here with the one and only Andrew Kingsley Saunders from the almighty Unleash the Archers. So, how are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm pretty good. Just messing around the house. Yeah. Nice day. It was very windy last night.
Yeah. Yeah, and just before we started rolling, I have had three of the other members. I've had Brittany on before, had Nick, and then Grant. Now we got you. I'm almost got the whole band together, so that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Cool. So basically, the format of this, I want to do a quick rundown of your catalog, as well as talk about your journey as an artist from where you started to now. But before we go into that, I want to dive right back into the very beginnings. What were the first bands that got you into metal, that made you want to start playing guitar?
The first bands were definitely like Nirvana and like pop punk stuff.
Yeah.
So I was listening to a lot of like Blink 182 when I was like 10,
Yeah.
11,
It's good
around
that
that
they're back
time.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of
And
people.
then
Yeah, you were saying. Sorry, I kind of nerd out when it comes to
oh, and
bands.
like it's like started off with that stuff because it was like more accessible and out there. And then like, I remember seeing Linkin Park on like on like Much Music or something. And then that was the heavy stuff that I
Yeah,
first started listening to. And then,
Linkin Park were the gateway for
you know,
me, because if it wasn't, they were like
yeah,
those first harder sounding bands I heard when I was like 10 years old, that would later
exactly.
get into metal as I got older. And a lot of
Yeah,
people always
exactly.
shit on
So
new metal, which is bullshit. Like the freaking gatekeeper elitists.
yeah. I mean, that's the shit that got me into heavy music, right? I was like, it was the first like guitar riffs. And then, I got really into Limp Bizkit, Korn, all those bands and Mudvayne. And then I think I remember after that, then I heard like Slayer and Metallica for the first time, and then Pantera. And then I started listening like death metal, like Cryptopsy. It was kind of a weird jump from that straight to that, but that's kind of
Yeah,
how it was. And then actually, I got into melodic metal like Iron Maiden after I was into extreme metal. So I
yeah.
went from extreme metal to melodic metal, and then I kind of never went back.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We almost have like a similar path, because I started out with a little bit of pop punk, like Blink 182,
Mm-hmm.
Green Day, Sum 41, Simple Plan, Newfound Glory, Good Charlotte, and then of course new metal bands was like
Mm-hmm.
Linkin Park, Korn, Slipknot, not and shit like that were like really in there. But I think Slipknot was like the extreme like bands I heard when I was like 12, 13. That
Yeah.
would get me into
They
like
were pretty
death
on the
metal.
extreme end of like the new metal stuff
Yeah,
or whatever.
especially like Iowa, they definitely have like more of that death metal kind of influence. But I wouldn't call Slipknot a death metal band by any
Yeah.
means, but they have kind of like that aggression that death metal is known for.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and then of course getting into like the classics: Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, King Diamond. So I think you and I pretty much have like the
Yeah.
similar kind of like background in getting into metal.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's just for a lot of people that's just kind of the natural way it goes, right? So,
Yeah. And
but
now,
yeah.
yeah. So, what were your first bands before you joined Unleash Archers? From what I heard, you were in a band called Golgotha that would eventually you changed your name to Archeron.
Yeah, so it was Golgotha, and then we changed our name to Archon Legion, and then that band had me and Grant in it. And we used to go on tour with Unleash the Archers back in the day. I actually have something funny here I can show for the interview.
Ooh, an exclusive.
Um, this is probably from 2008. I don't know if you can see it, but it's
Yeah.
probably gonna not show up with the background. It's a ticket.
Oh yeah, I see it
There
now.
we go. Archon Legion, Unleash the Archers.
Oh wow.
So we used to play together. This is before me and Grant were in the band.
Yeah, and little did you know.
Yeah. And then some members left, and then Grant joined, and then another member left, and then I joined. So then that was kind of the beginning of we solidified the current lineup minus space players because they've come and gone. But
Yeah,
Nick is permanent now. So
yeah, yeah. But and of course, I think also in '07 you started a band called Crematory. Because tell me about that.
oh, Gremory. I think that was one. I joined them. I was only with them for a few months, and then they ended up turning into Arcspire.
Oh shit, I never knew they were Arcspire at that time.
Yeah, so they weren't at that point. They were called Gremory, and they were a tech death band in town. And it was Spencer on drums, and then a few other guys. It's like he was pretty much the only one who was in the band still. But I had joined them for a bit, and then they ended up moving to Vancouver and becoming Arcspire, and I stayed behind, and then I ended up joining UTA later.
Yeah, yeah, but
I'm more of a power metal guy than I am a tech death guy, so I think it was not really the right path for me at the time. But
yeah. And then there's also a sane, and apparently it was also on Metal Archives. You were also a drummer on there. That was what it said on there.
yeah, that was with my brother. We had a black metal project. It was a two-man black metal project, and I played drums on it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. And then of course, Mother died today.
Yeah, that was my buddy's band. Kind of a goth metal thing, a little bit typo negative meets like oh, what did he really like? Yeah, it was just a kind of goth metal. And that was a really fun band to be in.
Yeah, and then of course from 2011 to 2013 you were in two bands. I believe that was November Witch was an Ozzy Osbourne tribute band, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
Robot Metropolis.
yeah. So I had a prog band for a bit with my buddy. That ended up turning into Sleeper Ship.
Yeah,
And then November Witch was, yeah, we were just like a cover band around town. We did like an Aussie tribute. Black Sabbath and solo era. That was fun.
nice.
That was a
I,
lot of fun.
and then of course you eventually joined up with Unleash the Archers. How did you hook up with like Brittany and Scott and all the rest of the guys?
I've known them for quite a while. I probably met them when I was about 17, maybe. And I actually remember the day that Mike Selman, their old guitar player, I was at Logan's. It was a venue in town, and I was standing there, and he came up to me. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm starting this new band. It's called Unleash the Archers." And I was like, "Cool, whatever." And he was like, he's still a really good buddy of mine. And I was like, "Yeah, sweet, cool." And then that was it. And then so I'm 34 now, so I've known them since I was about 17. And we used to go on tour with them. My old band would go on tour with UTA, and we just do like BC, Alberta, like Canada stuff. And then Grant joined, and I already knew Grant because we had known each other and played in bands together. And then when their other guitarist left, they gave me a call, and then I was like, "Yeah, I already knew him. We're already friends, so it was a easy replacement."
Yeah, yeah. Were you kind of like nervous being like the guy in the band at the time because especially being the guitarist, they also have like different like writing styles, tones, and everything.
Yeah, it was I wasn't too nervous because I knew them all, but I definitely was like I also knew the guitarist that I had replaced fairly well. And he was the main songwriter in the band. So I had to kind of take over that role, but I already did a lot of that anyways, and I knew what their style was, so I was kind of able to integrate a little bit. But it has obviously changed over the years and stuff as more of like our writing style came in. But you know, it's just what happens.
Awesome.
I try to keep the basic sound there for the band because that's important.
Right. And so then 2015, your first album with the band, Time Stand Still. I love this album. This is probably my opinion, my favorite Unleashed the Archers album. Did you like write any at all for this album, or was that
Yeah,
one of
I
those?
it was like kind of half done when I joined the band, and some of the songs were like the guitarist I replaced had written, or at least parts of, and then some Grant had written, and I came in and kind of finished writing a few of them, and then wrote a few of them on my own. So we kind of just like had to get it all put together. They had a bunch of demos ready and stuff, so it was kind of a effort just getting that all together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit of the older, some of the older members and then the newer members together. It was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
But
It's yeah, you're saying.
no, yeah. Anyways, that's it.
Oh, so and it's still like I especially hearing that song Tonight We Ride. I remember seeing like all the reaction channels do that, and that's pretty much how I heard of you guys.
Hmm.
And since then, you've been one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, that was definitely the song that kind of like launched the band. I know General was like the first one that got a bit of like viewership and stuff on YouTube, but Tonight We Ride was probably the one that really pushed the band forward more.
Yeah, and one of my favorite songs on here is Test Your Metal, and I would love to hear you play that live. Maybe if y'all maybe at Prog Power next year, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that was one that and that was one that we always put in the set. That was actually the first song I wrote for the band,
Oh shit. Yeah,
and it
thank you
was
for writing one of
yeah, it
my
was
favorite
fun. I was
songs.
like, yeah, Brit's like, we need like a old school heavy metal song. I'm like, all right,
All right.
let's do it. But
And
yeah,
so
we used to play that one,
uh,
but we might again.
yeah. And so when you joined Unleashed Archers, did you start like doing like touring outside of Canada at the time? Was that like your first time outside of like Canada? And did you like play in the US at all?
Yeah. What did we do? We after that album, we went to Japan and we went to China
Oh
and we
damn.
did the US, and we did Mexico.
Oh,
And they'd already gone and done the US before I joined. Um, they'd done it independently. So after the album, we signed with Napalm, and then we had a little bit more backing. So yeah, we did Japan and China. That was wild.
wow.
And then the States. That was my first time doing those because before that, I just toured in Canada in like like DIY style. We just did it ourselves, and it's expensive to go to the States and get your visas when you're an underground band with no backing. So we just did the Canada thing. So then when I joined them, they kind of had more things in motion to get all that together, and it was sweet. I got to do a lot of really cool, go to a lot of really cool places that I
Awesome.
hadn't been before, and it was pretty sweet.
Awesome. And so your next album, Apex, I loved this album. What was that like going from Time Stands Still to this?
Well, that was the first one where it was like me and Grant doing the whole thing without anyone else, like without any of the looming former members on it. So I remember sitting down and I just like had an idea for like the music and I just started writing it, and then Grant wrote a few songs for it, and then it was just the more I felt that one was just really concise and written like for the band as a whole, whereas Time Stand Still kind of like it's a great record, but it was kind of a little bit like drawn from all over the place. Um, so that Apex really felt like a like nice. It was just written to be that album, and so that was kind of our first. That was like the first one where the lineup was solidified, and we kind of knew what we're gonna do now. And that was when the sound shifted a little bit to kind of what we are now.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite songs is "Earth and Ashes," which actually has you doing some singing on there. How did it come? How
Yeah.
did the idea to come about for having to do a little bit of singing?
Well, I sang in my old band. Um, it was me and Grant. So I did the lead clean vocals and Grant did the growls, kind of like what we do in UTA, except with Britt. So I already sang, and Brittany was the one who recommended it. She's like, "Do you want to sing on this song?" And I'm like, "Yeah," because I love singing.
Yeah.
Um, and so we did that, and then it went well. And then so when we did the next album, she's like, "Let's do it again."
Awesome.
And I'm probably going to do it again on the next album as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, and I think you have a really great voice.
voice is
Thank you.
just really just epic, really commanding and powerful. Is pretty much how I described it when I first heard it. And
Thank
I
you.
and I initially thought I was like who's the guest singer? And apparently, oh, it's their guitarist. I had
Mm.
no idea.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Like I say, I love singing. So it's if I have I'll sing as much opportunity as I get.
Yeah, yeah, you could almost try to like wish you could do like a kind of like a trade off, kind of like dual vocal thing,
Yeah.
with you and Brittany, and
Yeah,
also
well
Grant doing the backup screams.
yeah. Yeah, we're gonna experiment more with it throughout our career for sure.
Yeah. And then in between, of course, Apex and Abyss, you did like the Explorers EP, and has another one of my favorite songs, which is a cover of Northwest Passage. Tell me about like that. Was that like to hold people over before you started with Abyss?
Yeah, like a little bit. Like we actually recorded Northwest Passage during Apex in the same sessions. And it was just gonna be like a bonus track on the album or something, or like just, but we were like, this is pretty cool. I think it deserves more. We think it deserves more of a release than just being like a bonus track hidden or buried. So we ended up taking that recording and then we just did the EP because it was a pretty cool song. We did the video for it and stuff because it's like that song is pretty big, like famous in Canada. There's a lot of people that call it like the unofficial Canadian national anthem
Yeah,
because it's just a really epic song. And it's also about it's comparing like these guys going to search for the Northwest Passage and touring. Because in the end of it, it's like they're literally driving across in their van, and he's like comparing what like being a musician on the road is like to like, yeah, being an explorer. So we found it fitting, and it's also a great song. And it's just like a nice big epic sea shanty kind of thing. So that was a lot of fun to do, and we just felt it was too good to be buried in just like released casually. So and then yeah, that was good to in between the two albums and whatnot.
yeah. And then your latest album, Abyss, love this album. This is one of my favorite albums of 2020.
Thank
Of
you.
course, this was from what I heard, it was like conceptually a sequel to Apex.
Yeah. So it was we'd already planned to do Abyss when we did Apex. So they were already the not so much the music was written, but the idea was there. So when we were doing Apex, it was planned to already do another one called Abyss. And I had a few riffs and stuff put together when we were writing Apex that were just kept for that album. And then this one was definitely like a planned thing. Like I think I wrote all the music for this one and I sat down for like a few months and just wrote it. And it was supposed to be it was all supposed to be done at the same time, and then Britt had the concept already done, and we had already decided to kind of add a few different things to it, like the synth and stuff, because we wanted it to be more of a sci-fi concept and sound.
Yeah, I could definitely get the vibe with the album art.
Whereas Apex is more of a like medieval heavy metal album. Yeah, so like Apex is like on the planet in like more of a fantasy setting. Abyss was supposed to take place later on in space. So we're like, let's add some synth and like some of the songwriters a little bit more in like the pop direction for some things. It just lends itself well to like kind of a sci-fi epic sound. And yeah, we tuned down a bit. We used the 7 strings just to kind of give it a bit more of a modern sound. But I think sonically it still works well with Apex. I don't think that's too jarring. The songwriting was basically the same thing. And it was all conceived around the same time. So
Yeah, yeah. And from what I heard, you started like you recorded it a little bit, then you did a little tour with Dragon Force, but then that was, of course, when the world shut down. Did you play any songs
we
from
did
this yet?
Soulbound.
Yeah,
Yeah, we played Soulbound with the Dragon Force tour.
yeah. That was like the only song that was heard live, and then
Yeah.
of course you did like that live stream, which I think is a great one. I remember seeing that, and it was like, wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was kind of like we were kind of in a bit of a tight spot with the pandemic. So we're like, oh, let's try doing this. And I feel like we tried jumping on the live streaming thing pretty quick once the pandemic happened, because it was like, well, we have really no other choice, and I don't just want to sit here for 4 years and wait. So
Yeah.
I remember we were on tour with Dragon Force, and Herman Lee was already all over Twitch.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, Twitch. So we kind of like, we're like, yeah, let's do that. We can keep playing because we can't tour. So we'll do live streaming. And then some venues around Vancouver also started doing it.
Yeah.
They would get bands in and they would live stream it so you could still play shows, because people were like, we want to play shows still. So yeah, the live streaming thing was kind of born out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also had Grant on here a while ago, and I was bringing up an idea. You should do a thing like a stream or a live show where you play both these albums in its entirety.
Yeah, I want to do a tour that's like that.
Yeah, yeah, it would be great because, like I said, they're both part 1 and 2. It'd be cool to hear.
Them
start to finish.
When we did the cruise a while back, we played all of Apex. We split it up into 2 sets. But I've always wanted to do both of those albums as like one show.
Yeah.
It'd be quite the set. It'd be about an hour and a bit, or no, it'd be two and a bit hours. But like, as long as you can find the right night and pull it off, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you should do like an evening.
Do an intermission between them.
Yeah, you should do like
I want to do an evening with Unleash the Archers.
Yeah, because I know like Dream Theater, Machine Head did something like that. I could see you guys definitely pulling something off.
Yeah, I think, like once we kind of get back in the swing of things, like see if there'd be a demand for it. Maybe like there'd be no opener. It's just one. We could do like the 2 albums and then maybe like a greatest hits thing or something like that, just with like a few other tracks on it.
Yeah, I would pay to see
That'd be a fun night.
Yeah, that you deserve my money.
We've definitely talked about something like that in the future. So
yeah,
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I ever saw Unleash the Archers was, of course, last year. You did that tour with the Ether Realm. Was that like the first tour you did, like back from the pandemic?
Yeah, that was the first one, and we were trying to figure out a way to do it while being safe, because we knew things were kind of weird, but we did it. The first one went very well, and no one got sick. And then the second one was in winter, and then the Omicron thing started happening, and then we all got sick. But it was at the very end of it. Yeah. So we did 2 legs of it, right? We did just about 1 month, then we had a little break, and then we did another one. Because we were supposed to go to Europe in December or January, but Europe was not looking good. And so we did another run through the States with the same lineup and hit all the markets and places we didn't hit before. So it was pretty cool. It felt good to get back. It was a real bummer not to be able to do Europe, but we're we're working on the new album right now, so that should be next year.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of ask about that. What is the status of the next album?
So the next album is just about done being written. We're going to go record in March. So we've got the studio booked. And this one is not a concept. Well, it's a concept album, but it's unrelated to the last 2.
So it's just a completely new thing.
It's a completely new thing. And we're going to go record that here. And then Jacob is going to do the mixing and mastering still, but we're not recording it there. And then we likely won't be touring heavily until 2024, but we will be doing some stuff next summer, because we got Prog Power and we've got Mad with Power.
Yeah.
And a few other things that will most likely get booked around that. Those are just the 2 that we have booked right now.
Awesome.
So the album should be done recording by March. And then, I mean, judging by how the time limit from when you submit the album to when it's released, it's looking like a fall release. Fall 2023 it would come out. Our last one came out in August 2020, so it's usually when they release them. And then that would mean that when we'll do the touring for that album, probably either like in the early fall, late fall of 2023, possibly 2024, and then do the big push probably spring 2024.
Awesome.
It's really weird having to like you have to plan your lives like 2 years in advance when you're in this kind of career. But it's but and like Britt and Scott just had a kid and stuff, so they're kind of focused on that for this fall, right?
Yeah, happy for them.
And then very happy. And then we'll get then 2023, 24 will be kind of like the next cycle for the album.
Awesome. And kind of like switching topics from Unleashed Archers, you have a little solo project called Sleeper Ship. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that started I actually first started it and came up with the name like probably around 2015. And it was just or actually even maybe before I joined UTA, I can't remember, but I started just writing more modern progressive heavy stuff. I didn't really release anything until like a couple years ago, but I just chose that name as kind of like this is what the name of the project is going to be. It's a sci-fi. It's kind of a sci-fi themed, like modern progressive metal thing. Some of the songs on Abyss were going to be for that project, but I was like, nah, these are great for UTA and stuff. But I always played 7 strings, and that's where I kind of started doing it. And it actually mainly started doing. I was on Twitch, and I was releasing like synthwave stuff that I was writing on Twitch for fun, kind of messing around with like an 80s pop AOR thing. And I was like, oh, I'll just call it Sleeper Ship because that'll work. It's a great name for like stuff like that. And then so I was doing that, but I also had a bunch of songs written for an EP, like a progressive metal EP, which I'd always planned to release under that name. So I finally got that done last month. And it's not synthwave, it's more in it's like, it's just modern progressive metal. It's a little prog power-ish. And then I'm going to continue kind of in that fashion with that project. And that one was mainly because I love to sing and I need to have an outlet to sing. On everything, as wonderful as Brit is.
Right. Is there almost kind of
But
like
it's
what you're saying?
Yeah, it was mainly an outlet for me to get things that I couldn't do in UTA out, like, and I love singing, so I needed to have a project that I could sing.
Right. Hey, and is there almost kind of like a similar or different kind of like mind frame with Sleeper Ship as opposed with Unleash the Archers?
Yes. With Sleeper Ship, so UTA has a certain sound and a kind of thing that we follow and do, and it's written mainly for like it's Brit's vocals, and we kind of got a different feel with it. Whereas with Sleeper Ship, I can kind of get a little more experimental with it. I'll throw in some heavier things here and there, some more time signature stuff, but I can also do really poppy. Like I've written some just straight up pop music for it, and it just gives me an outlet to just kind of mess around with whatever I want. It's an unsigned project. It's just released through me, so I'm not too concerned with it all being the same. I kind of looked at Devin Townsend as like an influence for that, not just sonically, but the way he releases music, where he just does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and it doesn't matter. And that's kind of what I wanted out of that project.
Right. Are you planning on doing any live stuff with it, or are you just gonna keep it just studio only?
We actually got offered a gig in April, and probably gonna say yes. I can't say what it is yet, but I'm just solidifying a lineup for it, and then we're gonna start rehearsing. So that's something will be announced soon.
All right. And kind of almost wrapping things up, what's like next for Sleeper Ship or Unleashed Archers? I know Unleashed Archers, like we said, Sutter is going to do Prog Power and some stuff next year. Is there anything else with both of your projects that you'd like to plug?
Well, yeah, with UTA, we got the album coming out probably next fall. We're gonna start recording that in March. And then yeah, we got the Prog Power and stuff, and that's all we've got booked right now. But I know that when we do that, we'll be booking around it, because it's like we usually don't just go down to the States for one gig or something like that. So we'll probably book a few dates around it. But that'll come with time. And then once the album's done, we'll be on the road again for like 2024. Sleeper Ship, I'm putting a band together to do some live shows, and I'm hoping to do, it'll mostly be local stuff, but I'm hoping to maybe push that into a touring thing once we do the show and see how it goes. I also want to do a full album for that as well. So that'll just kind of be on the side. When I'm not doing UTA, I'll do that, and then vice versa. So yeah, we'll see. I've got another like EP plan for Sleeper Ship, and I might use that as kind of the second half of the album, and we'll combine it together, but I'm not sure yet. So we'll just kind of see where it goes.
All right. Anyway, thank you for this conversation, Andrew.
Oh yeah, no
It was
problem.
just
Thanks for
awesome.
having me.
Is just any final words you want to say to close this out?
Just happy holidays. Hope everyone had a good time. Good holiday season, and happy new year and all that. And I hope 2023 brings great things for everyone.
Awesome. So everybody, Andrew from Unleashed Archers and Sleeper Ship, we'll see you next time.